Today, we're going to step into a world that's pretty much always on, the world of teenagers and social media. But we're not just going to talk about the usual stuff. We're going to try and get to the heart of a much bigger question. What is it that really motivates them? So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the big social media debate, and then we'll listen to what teenagers are actually saying. We'll look at why not all apps are the same, and then we'll uncover a pretty surprising link to motivation. After that, we'll zoom in on what's called intrinsic motivation and finish up with some real practical ways you can build up your own inner drive. All right, let's dive right in. For a long time, the conversation about teens and social media has felt, well, a little one-sided. It's often been a story full of warnings, really focusing on all the potential risks. And it all comes down to this one central question. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? It seems so simple, but as we're about to find out, the reality is a whole lot more complicated than that. In fact, some researchers are starting to say, hey, hold on a second. They're suggesting that maybe this moral panic we've all felt might be a little overblown. They think we should move past this simple good versus bad argument and start asking a better question. How can we get the most out of the good parts while being smart about the risky parts? So to really get that more complete picture, there's one group we absolutely have to listen to, and that's teenagers themselves. And luckily, a study decided to do exactly that. See, instead of just giving teens a survey with a bunch of questions, these researchers went to where they were already talking, a platform designed for peer support. They looked at thousands of posts, all anonymous, to get a truly raw and unfiltered look at what's really going on. And this is what they found. The biggest theme, it was sharing negative experiences, at about 58%. But look what's right behind it. At 45%, was using social media to find connection. Now, you might notice those numbers add up to more than 100. That's because life isn't neat and tidy, right? A single post could be about something bad that happened and be a cry for help or support at the same time. And this leads us to a really, really important idea. We can't just lump all social media into one big bucket. The research is clear. Your experience can change dramatically depending on which app you're using. This chart makes that so clear. Each app has its own design, its own features, its own rules. Think about it. Instagram is all about images, so naturally, conversations around body image and self-esteem pop up more often. Facebook is often tied to your real-life identity, so issues about privacy, sometimes even with family, become a bigger deal. And YouTube, with its endless stream of videos? Well, it's no surprise that time management and feeling hooked are major themes there. The platform itself really shapes the experience. Okay, so we've talked about the risks, and we've talked about the search for connection. But what if there's another piece to this puzzle? Something we don't often hear about. Well, a different group of researchers looked into a really interesting idea. They wondered, could social media actually have a positive effect on a student's drive to succeed? And what they found was pretty eye-opening. Okay, now don't worry if you're not a statistician. I'll make this simple. This number you're seeing, a p-value, is just a way for researchers to know if their result is real or if it's just a fluke. And a number this low, well, it's a very big deal. It means the positive connection they found between social media and motivation is statistically significant. There's something real happening there. So, how does it work? Well, according to the students, this is how. An incredible 98.8%, that's almost everyone, said it helped them get study materials. More than 80% used it to find things like academic competitions. And over half said they were actually inspired by influencers in fields they were interested in. All this talk about motivation really brings us to a bigger, more fundamental question. It's not just about what we do, it's about why we do it. And to really get what drives us, whether that's scrolling on an app or studying for a test, we have to look deeper at the source of that drive. And that leads us to this really powerful concept from psychology called intrinsic motivation. Think of it like a fire inside you. It's the drive to do something just for the love of doing it, because you're curious, because it feels right, because it lines up with who you are, not because you're going to get some prize at the end. And looking at it side by side with its opposite, extrinsic motivation, makes it crystal clear. Extrinsic is all about the outside stuff. Good grades, money, even social media likes. And sure, it can work for a little while, but that drive usually vanishes the second the reward does. Intrinsic motivation, though, that comes from inside. It's self-sustaining. It's what fuels real passion, true creativity, and that commitment that lasts for the long haul. Now, understanding that difference is one thing, but how do you actually grow that inner drive? Let's talk about some real, actionable ways we can strengthen it. Here are 5 really solid techniques. It all starts with figuring out your passions, what genuinely gets you excited. Then, you give that passion some direction by setting clear, smart goals. Making those goals visual, maybe on a vision board, helps make them feel more real, more possible. And just as crucial are the last 2, building up your own self-worth and learning to see failure not as the end, but just as part of the journey, a chance to learn and grow. And this isn't just theory. This is the engine behind some of the most incredible stories we know. Think about J.K. Rowling, getting rejection after rejection, but she just believed in the world of Harry Potter. Or Oprah, whose inner drive to connect with people helped her overcome so much. Or Nelson Mandela, whose unshakable internal commitment to justice sustained him through decades in prison. That's intrinsic motivation in its purest form. So, as we wrap things up, here's a little something to leave you with. We live in a world that's constantly pushing external rewards on us. Grades, likes, you name it. But the deepest, most lasting motivation always comes from within. So the real question isn't about what others want from you, but what you want for yourself. What's that internal reward, that spark, that you're going to choose to follow today?